Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and Heart Network on Single TV, channels 250 and 251. I am Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with Pao. I would like to remind you to download the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores. The app is totally free while you download it. Please make sure that you rate it, that you leave a comment because feedback is important to us. If there is a topic that you would love for us to bring to you, please write it down on the comments. Uh, the Zingo TV app is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs from 2016 forward. Today, we're going to be talking about the consequences of suppressing our emotions. So we have a beautiful guest. Her name is Georgie Holbrook from Texas. She is an emotional wellness mentor, spiritual guide. She's a speaker, a happiness coach, a musician, and also an author of four helping self-help books. Her story of self healing has been published in 23 national magazines. So I welcome you today, Georgie. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, thank you, Pal. This is so wonderful. I'm just honored, appreciate you and your audience.
So please share, about you so we get to know you and your story.
Okay, I'd like to start out with a brief story that's going to weave into our time together today. And we're talking about emotions and how our sacred body tells our stories, what's going on internally in health issues. So imagine today that I come to you in the audience one on one, and Paul and I are together, and we go to an orphanage, and we decide that we're going to adopt a child. And when we get there, we walk through the orphanage, and there's all these children, and we hear about their background. And then there's this little girl or boy over in the corner, and we ask about this little girl, and we're told that she doesn't communicate with the other kids. She doesn't play with the other kids. She's been adopted out twice and brought back, not because she has a physical illness or something physical going on. It's just she doesn't communicate, and nobody's been able to get her to talk of what happened to her. She's just muted her voice. And so at the end of the day, we decide that we are going to adopt that little girl. And we're going to promise her that she will never have to go back to that orphanage. And so as we take her, just imagine what this little girl would be feeling, right? It's like, can I trust these two people? What's going to happen to me? Am I safe? And so as we take her in our home, I'm going to ask you this question. If we had a whole wardrobe full of nice clothes and toys, would we impress her? Would this help her heal? No, I believe your answer would be no with me. So how are we going to communicate with this child? So we decide we're going to give her delighted attention. We're going to promise her we will never take her back. She's going to be ours for the rest of our lives. And so delighted attention means that we're going to look in her eyes and communicate with our eyes that we're safe and that we're really here for her. And we're going to hold her in our arms until she can feel our heartbeat and feel safe. So we do this for 2 weeks. We're just totally there. And then after 2 weeks, we need to go back to work. So we hire a nanny. And the nanny's way of being with this child is to have cartoons and TV. And the child goes, well, I guess I might be better off being back at the orphanage because at least there was children around. So why do I tell you this story? I'm going to weave it into my own childhood story that many of us have an orphan child inside of us that has been shut down. But I wanted you to see the orphan child because in order for the trauma to ever be healed, we're not going to love on her once a month. We're going to love on her every day until that story, whatever that story is, becomes a blur. So let me tell you my childhood story. I grew up in Michigan, the United States, surrounded with forests. And my parents' dream was to have 4 children. So I was the firstborn. My little sister was born when I was 3 years old, and she died in the hospital 24 hours later. Then my mother got pregnant when I was 4 and when I was 6, and had full-term babies that were stillborn. So what do you do with that kind of grief, right? Their dream. They became quiet and silent, and they took to working. That was their only means. There was no counseling of how do you deal with this tragedy, right? But what happened to me was much like the orphan child. I became silent because that's what I was being mentored. But I want to ask the audience, have you ever been with somebody that doesn't talk and you just wonder what they're feeling? So I lived with that. That became my mentor. So I was taught not to, because of my parents, I modeled with them. Don't cry, don't feel, act strong, and don't be real. And it left me feeling bored, lonely, isolated, unworthy, disconnected, kind of empty, like I didn't know what was missing. And eventually, this is so important because this followed me throughout a major part of my life, that because of being shut down, I also couldn't feel loved. I couldn't love myself. I ended up in the corporate world being praised for all kinds of accomplishments, and I couldn't feel it. It was like, no big deal, because my unworthiness was so deep. I also couldn't feel anger. So people would brag on me, Georgie never feels anger. And it was like, no, because I didn't even know I had it. So that was my beginning, Paola.
Wow. So we all have, that orphan child, like you're saying, probably because we go through life, but our brain picks up on certain traumas, you know. And like you say, it's like I grew up in that environment, not the same environment like you're mentioning, but it's like in that generation where it's like you're tough, move
Right.
on. It's like do not cry, you move on. So it's like there is a lot of population out there from your generation, my generation, that was the toughness, a character to follow because that was
Be strong. Be
you,
strong.
yeah. So you had to swallow, whatever you were going through. Like if you learn not to feel angry, or maybe you learn, to numb your pain. And
Numb your pain, right?
yeah,
Numb
and
your pain.
I think a lot of us, in a way, we've learned to do that. Like of course there's people with higher percentage that master the skill of numbing more of their emotions than what they should have. But I can feel, that story where it's like that, your story where it's like, yeah, it's like I grew up in that generation as well, that was passed down to me, where it's like you be tough, you don't cry, because you were rewarded for
Right.
for being tough. So you thought that was you wanted your like in my case, it's like I wanted my mom's love, and in order to get her love, I had to behave a certain way. So that was one of them. Yeah.
There you go. Right.
Yes, yes. So what brought you joy as a young person, and helped you express your feelings? How do you learn to express your
Right.
feelings?
So the good news is I lived in this silent household, right? And somewhere around 10 years old, a neighbor gifted me with an upright piano and 3 pieces of music. And one was Ave Maria. And so I had a few piano lessons, but I wouldn't tap my foot. So she left and said, you can't teach her. But I learned Ave Maria. And it's a hard piece to sing and play, but
Beautiful.
I did it. And so I had a voice teacher. I sang in the choir. And this was finally my joy, right? And then all of a sudden at age 14, my voice teacher died in an auto accident. At the same time, I went on my first date and was date raped. and I totally shut down. So I call it a frozen emotion. Other people do also, but there was like some part of me during that period just died inside, totally confused. And so that's where I really shut down. I had
And
a
you
little
stop.
bit of joy, and then I just went boom.
Did you stop singing? I think in one of your interviews that I watched, I think you mentioned that you stopped completely playing the piano. You stopped
Yep.
singing.
From right there and then I stopped and actually didn't tie the dots together, but for over 20 years, my brother was a musician, had a bell choir and choirs and whatever. He'd invite me to sing. You couldn't get a squeak out of me. And I didn't understand it. It was like, did my voice die? But I didn't really understand how emotionally shut down that tragedy was still living inside of me.
That was a way to express your pain, you think?
Um, Say that again.
Was that a way to express your pain?
Of being shut down.
Yes. Like, were you
I,
able to communicate? Like, were you able to express the pain of losing your piano teacher? Were you able to
no,
express,
no, there was
communicate what happened to you on that date?
nope. I was just like the traumatized child. There was no help. There was no questions. So I didn't tell anybody about being raped, and nobody asked. There was just no help available to express what happened with my one and only cheerleader, my voice teacher. So anyway,
How can you explain that frozen emotion is like, and how it show up in your life?
so the frozen emotion was just a part of me that shut down so tightly that I didn't sing for 20 years. And I also thought in my mind that my past was behind me, which many people do. You know, my childhood is behind me. Why should we talk about our child? But I was actually carrying it with me. I was carrying it with me.
And a lot of us do that.
Hmm.
You know, it's like we carry that, and trauma comes in different sizes, different flavors. So I was like,
Absolutely.
yeah, so we carry that. It could be, it could be as silly as dad didn't take you to the movie as he promised. Sometimes there are silly things, but you know,
They're major to a young
yes,
person.
yeah, your brain just picks it up. You don't
Right.
get to choose. It's like sometimes, whenever I call, like, they come in different sizes. So the silly ones, because yours is a major one. Like someone died, you had that ugly experience on your date. But sometimes there are silly traumas that our brain chooses, and then we suppress them until we
Right.
get older. And like you said, it took you 20 years.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And now I
So,
write music. So hey, there you go.
oh, wow. I mean, it's like healing. Healing is so important, and
Hmm.
it is our choice. It's
Right.
our choice. So, how did you cope with you being traumatized for those 20 years?
Right. So at age 16, not knowing how to feel my feelings, I took on a work addiction as my drug of choice. I didn't know that at the time, but alcohol and drugs weren't available to me. So I worked two jobs and went to high school. And from there on, I just started getting into the corporate world and became very successful. And I could work 12, 14 hours a day, and I could do the work of 4 or 5 people sometimes, and I could hire and I could train and I could solve things. So I operated strictly from my head, but I took on a work addiction that is approved of. So at 16, my parents bragging on me. She's making her own money, she has her own car. And yet I never went to a ball game, never went to a dance, none of that. And nobody questioned it because I was working.
You were
And
being rewarded.
right. So work addiction became what I was worth. If I wasn't working, then I didn't have any personal worth. And I also thought that being used for sex was the definition of love. Really important for us women to get that you know, that there's so much more to being loved, right? Rather than just being used for sex. So I have a definition for work addiction, and I'd like to tell you what it is. It's one who, just breathe into this, a work addiction, one who has the inability to recognize or admit destructive behaviors, adding stress and personal needs becomes a way of life where you just don't even acknowledge yourself after. And one willing to use their body, mind, and spirit and life for money, for others, or for some cause. So I've written 23 articles, and one of them is on work addiction, if any of your audience would ever like a copy of it. But I talk about what's the difference between a prostitute and a work addict, where you're working and you're just sacrificing your body. At least they have the label. We have the nice, oh, look, kid, she's got the house and she's got the company car or whatever, and 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 we're selling our souls. We're
Yeah.
selling our souls.
Yeah. Sometimes when we dive into that work addiction, we load ourselves with lots of caffeine to continue to go. We grab the first thing that comes into our mouth because we're hungry, but we're not thinking, if that how it's going to impact our health. And yes,
Yeah, because
yes,
we have no value of ourselves. So we're being devalued by the system. We're also being devalued by ourselves.
okay. Because it's easier to numb the pain that way, to ignore it, right? It's easier to
Absolutely.
ignore the pain and just focus on the outcome that
Right. Right.
that we adopt
Right.
without being aligned, and there's no core values being practiced right there, no fruits of the spirit being expressed, because
Absolutely.
we're on the go 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 go, at times is like, and we get lost because we're numbing the pain. Yeah, I do know people that they keep themselves busy, and that's what they're doing. They're suppressing their emotions. They haven't learned how to heal. They
Right.
haven't learn how to
Right.
love, express that love, that forgiveness.
Right. And the universe is just so willing to give to us a whole different reality, but we're socially conditioned. This is how life is. This work, eat, sleep, do it again and again and again until we're just numb, right? We're just
Yeah.
numb.
Yes. Now that, yeah, and there is so much uncertainty, especially for youth. I just had a coaching session, and whenever this client, as I well, what do you want to work on today? This person was, he thought his problem was time management, and in reality was the uncertainty, that the youth is living right now, uncertainty of, like, they watch the news, they don't know what their future holds. So sometimes it's just easier, to numb that, and the uncertainty, to numb the pain, to, like, okay, just let's just, I'm gonna ride that train, I'm just gonna
Right.
work 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 work, and not enjoy the the process of life.
Right. We
Sometimes we
lose
get in.
ourselves.
Yeah.
We lose
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes. So how do our emotions manifest in health challenge as a language?
All right. So I learned this the hard way. So I have this saying that our emotions are 80% of our health issues. So our emotions manifest in a physical health challenge as a language trying to get our attention. And what we're taught is to medicate it and cut it out many times. So for me, I was in the corporate world and knew nothing about my body. And at 36, and hardly ever got sick. And if I did, I worked over the top of it. And at 36 years old, I got allergies. And for 5 months, I took allergy shots. And after allergy shots, my face started turning red. And my regular family doctor couldn't figure it out, thought it was my shampoo or something I was doing around my face. But then I was a speaker in North Carolina, and for a whole week doing workshops when my face broke out in boils. This is at 36 years old. So makeup's not covering up. I got my suit on and my high heels, and I'm the speaker, and so embarrassed, just so embarrassed. So I come back and I actually go to a skin cancer doctor, not thinking I had cancer. I just needed a quick fix. Just get rid of this here, whatever it is. And I'm diagnosed with rosacea, an incurable, deforming, disfiguring disease. And in the corporate world, if I would have told my employers, these employees are just incurable, we can't do anything with sales or whatever it was, I wouldn't have had a job. So it was a new word for me. And I also knew in my heart that I never, ever wanted to be in this position again where I knew nothing about my body. I knew more about business than I did about myself. So I turned down the medication and I did what you and I would do. I went and got other opinions, and the opinions were, take this medication, you're in an emergency, this is what's going to happen, showing me pictures of deformed faces. And I'm like, this can't be. So I decided to go on my own mission, that I would never be put in this helpless position again, and that I would help other people figure it out if I could ever figure it out, right? So I went for 6 years. I went to over 50 doctors. I've been to some major dermatologists and clinics, diet, exercise, studying, progressively getting worse, progressively getting worse. So in the 6th year, I'm 42 years old. I'm losing my eyesight now from the trauma of it. And my face is deformed. And I'm like, do I go the next 40 years like this? I don't think I can. I mean, it was like, what is the solution? The immune system can't be this complicated. So I'm in California, and there's 5 medical doctors that are holistic, and they're sharing the talk on how to prevent cancer, cornea, and stroke. I didn't have any of those, but I figured that maybe there'd be a gem in there that I would hear. And one of the doctors understood the immune system, came to America, became a medical doctor, and said, I'm not interested in cutting it out and medicating it. I want to learn about the immune system. How does the human body heal? So I'm listening to him and going, oh my goodness, finally, there's somebody that I can relate to. And I had 1 hour with this doctor, and I was pretty skinny at the time and scared. And anyway, he shared with me that the allergy shots I had originally started with, that many people get arthritis, but because my work addiction, I had actually burnt out my immune system. Very important to know that we can do this to ourselves, right?
I didn't know that you can burn out your immune system.
So I burnt out my own immune system. And he said, I don't know if you'll ever heal. Stop going to doctors and looking at pictures, because just like people going on the web and they study all these diseases, you just take it in, don't you? So he said, stop doing that. Find peace within at whatever cost it takes. And then he took my pulse by taking my wrist and feeling, and he could tell how each organ was firing. And I had an internalized quiver that I had never explained to anybody. Nobody ever knew it. My clothes weren't shaking, but I had this nervous tension inside. And he said, you will never heal with that internalized quiver. You must find peace within. Stop going to doctors. So fast forward, I got in through divine intervention to a group of 80 people that were doing a week-long workshop on letting go of fear and turning to success. And so anyway, I said, I'll die going in front of 80 people. I mean, my face was bright red, and so many people would look at me and quiz me about being in a fire. And I was just bombarded daily, no matter where I went. So I get in this workshop, and I'm not saying anything, but I'm learning that emotions really do play a big part of this here. And I hadn't cried for years. And that be strong that we talked about with the orphan child, right? Is how we're trained to just shut down. So I want to share with you what happened the first night. I'm in this commercial building, 80 people, and they have us make a list of likes and dislikes. And my dislike list went on for a long way, but I didn't have any joy on my like list. And I knew I was out of control. And I went in the public bathroom. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Nobody else was in the bathroom. I look in the mirror and I've got my list. And I look in my eyes and I say, I could do away with my dislikes one at a time for a long period of time, right? Like 5 years or something. But I don't know if I'll live that long because I was so fragile. And so I said, I'm doing away with them to the best of my knowledge right now, right here. and I am going to find joy. I don't know how to look for it. I don't know what it feels like. A peace within, I don't know what that looks like either, but I'm going to find it. And in that moment, Paola, in that moment, the fever left my face. In that moment, the quiver left my internal being. And I had this calmness come over. And I was like, is this the answer? You just do away with your dislike list and make this commitment to yourself that you're not going to live this way any longer. And so I stayed with that group then for the next 9 months to a year. And during that time, eventually, they encouraged me to tell my story and to cry. But it started out being like a whimper because I was just so locked down, right? So they just loved on me, and my face healed, my capillaries healed, my eyesight came back. And I dedicated to sharing my story with anybody and everybody that I can. I love speaking and sharing my story. So that's how I got to prove. So I have a saying that I've been in God's university, whatever we want to call God, right? And I never get to graduate, but I was put in that position because if I wouldn't have had my corporate experience of solving major business projects, I wouldn't have had the tools to move forward. So today, if we look on the web, there's like millions of people with acne and rosacea. And so my heart always goes out to how can I help those people, right? And how can I help anybody with anything? Because the immune system basically works the same for all of us. We scratch our arm, it heals, and then all of a sudden we have these health issues and we just totally forget that we have it within ourselves.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. You know, I know we have in our audience people that do believe in the divine power. If you do believe, you understand the story. If you do not believe in a divine power yet, scientifically speaking, you know, whenever you shut down your emotions, your cortisol levels go up. Your adrenaline are always working. So whenever that happens, when your cortisol levels are super high, then you inflammate your cells. And that's where infections come in. That's where the immune system begins to shut down. That's where cancer begins to survive. You know, it's like one way or the other. You know, if you believe in the divine power, awesome, because we do. If you do not, there are scientific research out there, you know, that whenever we shut down our immune system, I'm sorry, when we shut down our emotions, you know, when we welcome stress, anxiety, we're allowing those hormones to win, to swim through all of our body, take over, and we are opening up for a lot of kinds of you know, health issues. So yes, thank you for sharing your story, because it's like you were suppressing, you know, your traumas.
Right. And I'd like to add here that our traumas are so familiar, we hang out in them.
They become home.
Yep. That becomes our story.
Yes, yeah, it becomes our emotional home, and sometimes we're so dive into that emotional home that we don't want to let go.
Right.
But it's like you said, the moment you decided, you no longer want to live with your that list, then you were going to find joy no matter what, find love. Then you begin to notice, you know, like you mentioned that the temperature over here went down, and then your what you were feeling in your arms that also went away. So it's like sometimes it's like the moment when we decide, we begin to see hope and change for a better health journey.
So if there's anybody in the audience that has a question about what is the internalized quiver, because they might have it, it's like when you're really fearful, you have this nervousness, right? But for me, I was having it 24 hours a day, and what it means is all 12 organs were out of harmony with my own system, with nature, and therefore I couldn't heal as long as I had that internalized quiver, because they're meant to be in harmony with each other and in harmony with me. So therefore,
and there's people that lose their hair,
Right.
And sometimes I'm like, it was because you're stressed out. Your body's trying to survive. It's not thinking of keeping your hair is the least thing your brain is thinking about. It. Your hair is falling off because your brain is trying to manage, the levels of cortisol and adrenaline that are within you. So you
Right.
have to learn, like you said, it's like if you were like 24/7 with that anxiety, uh, your body was trying to keep you alive. That brain was only
Right.
trying to keep you alive. So,
And
yeah,
hair
thanks for.
loss, the emotion behind each body part, the emotion behind hair loss is I just want to pull my hair out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
But it's on the
yes,
subconscious level.
yes, yeah. Thanks for sharing. I know part of your story, uh, you were led to believe that it was a punishment. Like you were going through this because like I saw pictures and I bought one of your books. I just didn't get it on time because I wanted to show our audience what your face looked like before. Your skin's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So tell us the story of how you know you were trapped in that belief, because sometimes we have those beliefs that you think, well, maybe it's a punishment. uh,
Mhm.
Please share with us.
Absolutely. So when my mother, I'll go back a little bit. When my mother lost the 3 babies, she was sure that she was being punished. So here I am involved in a church. My husband happened to be a minister at the time. And I'm bombarded with these people that quote me scripture. If you just had enough faith, you'd heal. If you were walking with Jesus, you'd heal. You must have done something really bad in the past. And I'm like, really, just totally confused. But when you feel beat down and you have a health issue, that's the last time for somebody to be shaming you in their way of not living the good life. So the elders decided, this is over a period of time, to baptize me 3 times. Surely if we baptize her and we pray over her, there's going to be this miracle and she's going to heal, and whatever this curse is, it's going to go away. I didn't know, Paolo, if they were right, but they seemed to be really convinced that they were right. And I was so beaten down with this that I went ahead and was baptized. But each time I came out of the water and looked the same, but also had these religious people around me looking at me, and there was no miracle, was even more shaming and more bringing me down. Not one of them ever asked to hug me, ever asked if I needed a friend, never asked me, what does it feel like to lance boils every day? What does it feel like to go in a grocery store and have little kids screaming at you because you look like a monster and felt like a monster, right? Never. There was never any emotional support. Always the holiness that we have the answer for you, and you must have some kind of curse going on to not have it. So very hurtful. We really need to have compassion when somebody's sick and see that it's an emotional component, not a physical thing, and definitely not tied into anything that we've done wrong. It's anyway. It
Thank
was a
you.
journey, but it makes a good story in my books. That's what I can say.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, for anybody out there who is dealing with guilt, who is a big puzzle. If you're dealing with guilt, it's a big puzzle that you're going to begin to have mental health issues. So today, as you're listening to Georgie's story, I invite you to begin to heal your guilt. You're not perfect. Whatever happened in the past, learn to forgive yourself. Know that there is an opportunity to better your life, but learn to forgive yourself. Try to find that peace within you first. Try to find that love. Like make the decision like Georgie did. It's like, I no longer am going to live this way. Somehow, that our power, the higher power above God, who I believe is going to guide you to find that peace, to find that love. But be aware that shame and guilt leads to self-rejection. like you're afraid of people to reject you. That's how it's a huge puzzle of our mental health. So today I welcome you, I invite you to analyze and see if there is any shame, any guilt in your life, so that you can begin to heal. Heal by accepting, accepting who you are, accepting that we're not perfect. I messed up too, but we have to learn to heal. And that shame, that guilt won't take us, you know, anywhere in the happy and in the joy land of love, because that means we're not loving ourselves. And God
Right.
created you, is that you're not loving God's creation because you think you have a spot over here and a spot over there. Seek for forgiveness, so that you can continue to heal, because it is a huge, like you thought you were being punished. There's times in our life that something happens to us and we think, oh my gosh, I'm being punished. I might not be a good person. I must done something wrong. And that leads into, like, it leads into mental health. And we need to learn to take control of it, and not welcome it. It's like it won't take us to that happy of land of joy and love. So
Right.
thank you for sharing. Yes. What do you believe now about health challenges?
I believe health challenges, like we said before, is a language. It's coming up in my life, but as a gift to redirect me, that some part of me is out of harmony. So if we look at the bigger picture, right? If we stepped outside, we see the bigness of the sky. There's an accuracy to when the sun comes up, the moon, the stars, the planets. That intelligence. There's only one intelligence in the world, and some people have been led to believe that there's two, like one really evil and one good. I don't believe that. I don't believe that with all my heart. And that intelligence lives and breathes inside of us. I call it sacred. And we have missed that part because we've been conditioned to think that we're unworthy and whatever. But just like Paolo just said, see it as a book, and the book is written and it's done. And now we're writing a new chapter of our life, right? So having it as a gift, then the worst storms create the greatest rainbows. So what can I learn? And rather than cursing what's going on and being in this self-doubt that I'll ever heal, stay curious and praise your body. So if it's on your face, praise your face and say, oh my God. So for me, if that disease had been on my back, I wouldn't be alive today because it stopped me. It stopped me. I could no longer be in the corporate world. I had to start studying for myself. So anyway, it's all good. It's all good. Just seeing yourself as sacred, seeing that little finger. Life would be different without that little finger. But when's the last time we appreciated even one little piece of ourselves?
Yeah, be grateful. We invite you today to also to be grateful, for the body that you have, for the color of skin that you have, you know, for because we're able to move, we're able to talk, to communicate. It's like when we begin to practice that gratitude, it's like that also open up our heart to many opportunities to go to the joy and loving state that we're meant to
Right.
live. But sometimes life distracts us, and we stop. It distracts us. So it's like it distracts us from practicing and expressing the love and joy, because we're on a go 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 mode.
Right.
And here's the next question. How can we be true to ourselves in a world of destruction, and prevent illness?
Right. So I love what I teach, and I sure love what I learn, and I love the fact that I'm alive today. So getting out in nature, leaving your cell phone at home, just identify with the bigness of the universe, right? And your creator. Journaling all your thoughts and feelings, get them on paper. And if it's anger, I suggest that you journal it, just pour it out on paper and then burn it or rip it up so fine and then throw it in the garbage and watch the garbage truck take it and say, no, I no longer, it's done. It's just done. And then label yourself no longer with anything. I'm dumb. I stumble. I'm not smart enough. Whatever that label is, I've got arthritis. Do away with it. Just do away with it. Because the more we label ourselves, it comes back to us multiplied. So what we bless blesses us in return, but what we curse curses us in return also. Self-talk. Our self-talk is so important. We think that just because nobody can listen in, but what if somebody could listen in? Would we teach a child what goes through our minds that we tell ourselves? And then, are you orphaned? Do you feel orphaned? Orphaned no longer, right?
Oh,
So one way is cell phones. Cell phones have been such a distraction from nurturing ourselves. And then looking at your addictions. What have you taken up that's really just taking up your time and devaluating yourself? I suggest you look in the mirror. So if I have 10 clients and I ask them to sing or say how I love you, 8 of them can't do it. It doesn't matter what their education is. They can't do it. They don't like that person in the mirror. So my suggestion is looking in the mirror, just like the orphan child, right? Make eye contact. Ask that person in the mirror, how can I be with you? How can I become your best friend? How can I love you? What is it that would be really helpful for you? So ask bigger questions as if this is the best friend, and it is the best friend in your life, rather than denying her or him. But then put your hand up and make a high five. I've got you. I got you. I know you're feeling bad or whatever you're feeling, but I know we're going to figure this out. Remember that traumatized people heal differently, just like the little orphan girl. She needed a different way of healing than just a regular person. So a traumatized person will say to me, Georgie, when am I ever going to heal? Healing takes whatever it's going to take, but you're going to give yourself lavishly, self-nurturing every day, not once a month, and you're going to keep your commitment to yourself. So we committed to go on this show today. And so you make commitments with your friends, but making a commitment with yourself. So hugging yourself, even just the feel of your arms. Stay away from negative people, and then start doing like a slow movie and seeing, when I'm with this person, do I feel uplifted and inspired, or do I feel exhausted and moody after? And then stay away from them, because you're in a healing that is so important to transform your life. So you're going to stay away from cell phones. I have a client right now in London that he's addicted to Facebook. And so he's on his cell phone. He's got 3 little kids. And I said, for the next 2 weeks, stay off your cell phone and stay off of Facebook. He says, I think I'll die. And he did it. He's totally transformed his life. He's now got a family back in his life. And he's been writing children's books. I mean, it's like, yeah. So
yes.
finding peace and harmony within your life, learning how to breathe, and then choosing faith over fear, choosing your passion over pain and suffering. You were born with a purpose and passion as unique as your fingerprints. Are you going to die with it inside of you, or are you going to learn to live it?
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, awesome. I want to say too. I want to bring 2 comments. The first one, whenever Georgie is recommending us to journal, whenever we journal, whenever we use what we're writing, our brain uses different connections. So those connections that happens whenever we're writing, first of all, you concentrate. It helps with your memory, and it helps with healing. Which I think it's amazing. You know, it's like, that's why journaling is so important, because we heal through the writing. And it takes, like I said, it's like you're not only healing, but it's like you're helping your memory, and it's also helping you with a concentration. So yes, the second one is, there is, the probabilities of you being born, and I've said it before, is 1 in 400 trillion. So you're not here by accident. You're here for a reason. There is a purpose that you are here, that your heart continues to beat. And whenever you begin to value that God doesn't create junk, that He created you, when you begin to see how beautiful you are because you're able to move your hands, you're able to talk, when you see the beauty within you with love, not with ego, with love, then you'll begin to see the beauty in others. You're going to be able to pour more love into others, value them, value their skills, but it has to come with, like with your heart. This conversation comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the ego. The ego can take us far, but it hurts you and it hurts the relationships with, that you have around. So know that this show comes from the heart. We teach you, we bring, beautiful people to share their knowledge, because I know it speaks from the heart, not from the ego. So if we're, if we're guiding you, it's always to improve your life, but always to better you and those around you. Because whenever we heal, we're able to show up for others at a way better, uh how can I explain? It's like we show up better with a better attitude.
Right. And we live by example and then give to others our overflow rather than out of exhaustion.
Yes, yes. So how can you give us a suggestion of like on how to be equipped for life changes and not neglect ourselves from getting emotionally shut down? How can we begin to practice, like learning to live the experience, the emotions, without putting them in the closet again?
Right. Great question. Because life is always changing. So it's
Yes.
really important to learn from what we're talking about today. And I call it growing deeper spiritual roots. Who are we? And not let the world uproot us over and over again so that we're tossed around, right? So in order to do that, we need tools. We need to be like a fireman that is trained ahead of time before the fire. So if you have a loss of
Okay.
a loved one, a divorce, a child, whatever it is, right? Parent that moves in with you, a cranky person, whatever it is, how do we stay in balance unless we're trained? And we haven't been trained. So for me, as you know, I had no idea about my own body. So what I teach now is how to stay in balance, but the importance of it so that you're equipped to know how to release your emotions, stay balanced, and commit to yourself that I'm not going to be unhappy for long. Whatever that is, I'm not going to go into depression and 5 years later go, oh, yeah, I lost whatever. And it's like, no, no, life's too short. We need mentors. And I love teaching people because then they can experience the difference between being shut down and falling in love with themselves. And it's priceless. I mean, people will say, wow, how much did you spend for your recovery? And I'm like, everything I've spent to learn what I learned has returned to me. The universe has praised me with people just like this here today. So it's not about that we serve the skimpy creator. It's just that money and every good thing will flow back to us. But if we're equipped, then we can walk proud knowing that if I have a health issue and like for me, and the doctor says this is incurable, you can at least have a resource and say, well, not my body, not my body. There's
Yeah, I don't
holistic things I
accept.
want to practice. Right. And that there is answers rather than just cutting out something, that this is an emotion that showed up, and I teach people how to dialogue with that emotion, whatever it is, and then watch it shrink or disappear or just heal completely. So it is a language, and each body part has its own version of what it's trying to tell us. And there's nothing greater than studying the spirit within you. It's a love affair. It's just plain a love affair.
Wow. I've heard stories where people get a diagnosis and they use the power of no, where it's like, nope, that's, like, that's not my diagnosis. And it's like, it's amazing how they're like, nope, that's not my diagnosis. And then after some time, it's like, that wasn't their diagnosis. They choose not to own it. So that is
Right.
amazing. And I love what you said, that it's, we have to be trained. It's like, we have to be trained because life is constantly changing. And
Right.
as life changes, then we don't want to react, but we want to develop that good attitude that is going to guide us to grow, is going to guide us to give, like as a mom, I have to learn to develop. It's like I don't default to my best behavior all the time, to be honest with you, but I have, the more I practice the strategies and tools, I can tell you that more than 90% I'm able to behave to default to my best behavior because I have the strategies and techniques. Yeah, there is the 10% that is like I'm human and I show up without my strategies and tools, but then I don't stay there for very long. I was like,
Right.
okay, that was off. What triggered me? What happened? How can I improve? So
Right.
it's here we go. It's like a constant growth, and that we have to have the attitude where it's like I choose to grow. It's a muscle.
Right. 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 I also want the audience to know that if you have been diagnosed, is that, emotionally looking at number one, preventing situations. So if we're really healthy and we're taking care of ourselves, we will not attract some of the health issues that are coming down. But if you have been, to just love yourself right in the middle of it, do the best you know how, and don't feel ashamed about it. So if you need surgery, have the surgery, but love it. Love that part rather than complaining.
Yeah, because here we go back, scientifically speaking, if you allow your brain to release the good hormones, like is your dopamine, your serotonin, your body is going to learn to heal faster. But it's like we always have to have that mindset and be aware. Either way, like some of you might tend more to listen to the scientific way versus the divine way. So either or, there are research, like you said, you wrote in 23 different magazines, your stories there because you self-heal yourself. So know that if you're having uh, going through a hard health situation right now, it's like you need your brain to produce the happy hormones, the proud hormones. It's like navigate through it with as much joy and love as you can, enjoying the process versus allowing your cortisol and your stress hormones to rise to the top. So yeah,
Right.
thank you, Georgie. So what is the first sign of being out of balance?
Usually it's a health issue and it
Okay.
goes from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being bored, feeling empty, feeling
Okay.
lost.
Okay.
So bored is a big one, right? It's
Okay.
like being bored and all of a sudden the body's like telling our story then in health issues.
Okay. It happens. Being bored. Uh, where can we find you?
So I have a beautiful website. It's called georgieholbrook.com. And I teach many different things, but I'm always looking for opportunities also where I can share my story. So if any of the audience wants to take a look at how I can serve, this is, I'm just committed to sharing my story and helping people heal. So some of the things that I've done is, and you'll see them, my services on the website, is you can download free chapters of all 4 books. There's podcasts on there. I do a 15-minute free Zoom with anybody that wants to just tell me what they're dealing with because I can help intuitively. I've just been blessed with a lot of wisdom, but intuitively help you get ideas. Also, because of being in trial and error for 6 years with the rosacea, I've developed a lifestyle evaluation where we actually look at 16 areas of your life plus another 44 emotional and physical symptoms to see if your body has already started breaking down and you're not noticing it. You're just taking it, well, I get headaches and I got TMJ and I got hair loss and my feet are cold. And it's like, oh, I'm already out of balance and my body's trying to tell my story, but I haven't been noticing. So there's just layers of also that trying to solve where the emotions are accumulated in the body and how they're bogging you down and perhaps coming out in a health issue. I do guided imagery, which takes you out of head knowledge and you listen to your body and we get to dialogue with what does this body need and how old is this pattern, because a lot of times we think, oh, it just happened a year ago. No, it could have happened just like me when I was a child of how I got taught how to shut down. So anyway, it's just been a real joy to be on here with you, and blessings. I'd like to leave with a couple songs. I don't know if we have time. Do we have time for me to teach you a
Uh,
song?
they haven't notified me that we're running out of time, but they haven't notified me, so go for it, and then
Oh, cool, cool,
I'll let
cool.
you know.
Right, right. All right. So there's two little short songs that I've um, written. And so one is, I would like you to go in the mirror, sing this song to yourself, sing it throughout the day, hum it. It's like, how I love you, how I love you, how I love you, how I love you. And then put your hands on your heart and then start singing it to your family members. But first, you come back, you're going to love yourself. The other song is, I got an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. I appreciate each and every day. I've got an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. I appreciate my life more every day. So that bottom line, you can just add whatever's going on in your life, and you'll notice that your mind starts changing. So the last, remember we started out with the orphan story. So imagine today, if you want, you can close your eyes. Breathe into it. The day you were born, you might have been born at home, you might have been born in the hospital, but you're in your mother's womb, and all of a sudden it's peaceful and you're safe, and all of a sudden you're born and there's all these noises and lights. So imagine yourself in your own arms, and in your ear you hear the angel singing to you, reminding you of who you really are. And the song goes like this, breathing into it. The angels sang the day you were born. Holy, holy, holy is this child. The angels whispered your name. Holy, holy is this child. Divine and sacred, divine and sacred, divine. Your sacredness you would learn to own. The angels are singing you a love song today. Trust your intuition. Get your answers from within. Like water seeping into dry ground. Be filled with your own spirit. We love you, we adore you, we are here for you. The angels are singing you a love song. Love yourself today. Love your sacred self today. Love your sacred self in every way. Feel those feelings. Feel that child. Reclaim that sacred child. She will teach you to put a sparkle in your eyes, enjoy in your life like you've never known before.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Thank you. And this is something they do in therapy. Like this is something sometimes they go back to that old version of themselves, where the trauma happened. It could be whenever they were born. The mom had a hard labor. I love what you did, because it's like that is part of what happens in therapy as well. So, but you brought the love, so and your talent. So I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you all who stay the whole 55 minutes. We appreciate you so much. I hope you found a word, a phrase, an aha moment that you can implement into your life to to better your life, to grow from it. So remember that it is you who give talents to your powers. It is you who give life to your dreams. Thank you all so much for being here. This show can also be heard on Spanglish World Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings to you all.
Thank you.